let's get started. Right, today we're going to learn 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3, like numbers in Japanese, like how you can count people or age. Plus, we will have a look at the one of the particles, to, which means and. Right. Well, from the last class, we learned blah, 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 des. I'm Japanese, this is a pen, my father is a designer. And in Japanese, it looks like this. And you replace with Japanese words and plus des. And that's a basic Japanese structure or grammar. And what we write ha, a pronunciation that's wa in this context. So blah, 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 des. So equals. That'll be wa. Right, I hope you remember that. And when it's not equal, I'm not well, and then you should have janai desu instead of des. Janai, you have to add janai before des. Or you could also say ja arimasen. De wa arimasen, that would be the same. I'm not well, watashi wa genki janai desu. You have to remember this one as well. And when you make a question form in Japanese, you don't have to replace anything. You just add ka at the end of the sentence. So totally the same sentence, and you add ka at the end, and that will make the sentence into a question form. It's very simple. And we had a look at the vocabulary of family, father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, when you talk about your own and when you talk about the other people's. So they're different usually. These as well. Big brother, ani. When we talk about the others, oni-san. Well, you could talk about your own. お父さん、お母さん、おじいちゃん、おばあちゃん、お兄さん、お父さん、お兄さん、弟さん、お兄さん、弟、お姉さん、妹. You could do that, but there is some difference in Japanese speech. So that's what we have learned so far. And my family is well. 家族は元気です. We looked at it last time. So 家族, family is blah blah. But today we will look at numbers. So how do we say my family is 4 people? I mean, there are 4 people in my family in English translation, but literally or grammatically in Japanese, my family is 4 people. 4 people. In Japanese, that would be 4人. 4人です. 家族は4人です. Just in case you don't remember how to read them, I hope you can now read without the alphabets, but just in case I have put it. 家族は4人です. Literally my family is 4 people, but there are 4 people in my family. That's how we say in Japanese. For example, when there are 4 people in a family, for example, it could be like this. 父と母と姉と私です. Is it a bit too much? Too long sentence for you? I hope not. 父と母と姉と私です. I hope you can recognize these words. 父、母、姉、私. And then we learn here, と connects the 2 words or like more words, meaning and. So 父 and 母 and 姉 and 私. It's or there are and stuff. 父, what was it? 母, what was it? 父, my father, my mother. 姉, that's older sister, big sister. 姉 and 私, me. So when you want to say 4 people in your family, which are a father, mother, big sister, and yourself. And then it will be, what you can see here, you don't have to say my all the time. In Japanese, 父, just father itself, 母, mother itself. And then you connect words with と, 父と母と姉と私. And です at the end. So when you want to say there are 4 people in my family, which is father, mother, big sister, and myself. 家族は4人です. 父と母と姉と私です。Now you can be a little bit fluent here. So, well, that wasn't just an example. And here we have a look at the how we count people in Japanese. 4 people in Japanese, that was 4人. 4人, 4人. Well, basically, you can put 人 after the numbers. We'll have a look at numbers later. But the very important 1 person or 2 people, it's a bit different, irregular. 1 person, 1人. 1人. 2 people, 2人. 2人. Pronunciation, I don't hope you would pronounce it hitori or futari. It's hitori. So R is the sound between L and R. Or you could think about American ways of saying cutter or ladder, like this, like TT sound would be the closest sound to Japanese R. Rarirurero. So 一人, 一人, 二人. Sometimes you might see 二人 with F spelling, but I just write it in this way as who is the closest sound with H. We don't have F sound. So 二人. 一人, 二人, that's 1 person, 2 people. But afterward, just 人, 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 人. After numbers in Japanese. 3 people, 3人. 4 people, 4人. 5 people, 5人. 6 people, 6人. 7 people, 7人. Or 7人, you could say that both ways. 8 people, 8人. 9 people, 9人. 10 people, 10人. Right. That's how we count people. 人人人人. 人人人人人人. Except 1 person or 2 people. 一人、二人. Up to 100, 10 people, 100 million people, that will be 人. Blah, blah, 人. Well, we can go back to the basics, the numbers. Well, in Japanese, unlike German or Danish, it's very logical. I mean, yes. I don't mean to compare this much, but when you remember from 1 to 10, it'll be relatively easy to go further. So, very important, you start with 1 to 10. But 0 in Japanese, you could say 0, directly from English, 0, 0, 0. Or Japanese word for 0, that's 0. Remember, 0, this E will be pronounced 0, long vowel E, so 0. 0 in Japanese, 0. Or 0, 0, 0. Right. From 1 to 10. 1, 1, or 1, or 1. 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, or 4. When you count 1, 2, 3, 4 or 1, 2, 3, 4, that's totally the same. There's no difference. But for example, 4 people, 4人. So that's exception. So it's neither 4人 or 4人. It's 4人. So when you count some other things, it's a bit different. But usually, when it comes to 4 in Japanese, it doesn't matter if you pick 4 or 4. When you just use numbers as itself. 1, 2, 3, 4 or 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 in Japanese, 5, 6, 6 or 6, 7, 7 or 7, 7. Again, it doesn't matter if you pick 7 or 7 when you just simply count. 8, 8, 8, 9, 9 or 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 doesn't matter. 10, 10. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So when you remember these, from 11 up above, very easy. because 11 is 11, which means 10 plus 1. 11. It doesn't exist plus, but 10, 1. That's 11. 11. 12, that's 10, 2. So 12, literally. 12, 10, 2. 12. 10 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 13. 13. 10, 3. 13. 14. 14 or 14. Again, that's the same. 15. 15. 10, 5. 15. 16. 16. 17. 17. Or 17. 18. 18. 10, 8. 19. 19. Or 19. And 20. 20. Again, it's super logical. 20, like 2 times 10. Like mathematics in your head. 20 is like 2, 10. That would be 20 in Japanese. So 20. So easy. Very logical, I would say. And from 10 to 100, 10 to 90, that's also logical. 10 was 10. So 20, that's 20. 2 times 10, 30. That would be 3 and 10. 3 times 10, 30. 40, that's 40. 50, 50. 60, 60. 70, 70. 80, 80. 90, 90. Well, here, there are some like options, 4 or 9 or 7. But here, there's one choice. So we don't say shiju for 40. You could, but we usually say 40. As for 70, we usually say 70. We don't say shiju much. As for 90, there are another option, ku. But we don't say kuju, we say kyuju. So there's like each one has each name. So that's a bit easier, maybe. And when you want to say 21, that would be 2, 10, 1. So 21. 2, 10, 1. When you want to say 35, you say 3, 10, 5. 35. That's how it is. And 100 in Japanese, 100. 100. 100. 200, 200, and blah, blah, blah. Right. Well, when you learn numbers in Japanese, you can say how many people. Like when you count how many something. Or here we learn people. How old, as in age. And then what time. We can also talk about time and how much price. We can talk about price as well. And date. You can say that in Japanese as well. But there's some extra information that you have to learn. So here, we'll focus on how many people, as in we have looked, as in 1人、2人、3人、4人、5人. And how old? Age, blah, blah, sai. Numbers plus sai. We'll have a look at it now. But afterwards, what time, our price and date, that will come next time. So, age, blah, blah, is old in Japanese, that's sai. So you first name the number of your age, plus you say sai. Basically, that's it. So again, from 1 to 10, when you get a grip of the whole system, it's way easier when it comes to higher than 11. There are 3 exceptions. Otherwise, you can put numbers plus sai. 0-year-old, that's 0 sai. 0 sai for babies. 1-year-old, instead of 1 sai, we say 1 sai. 1 sai, it won't be wrong. We do know what you mean, but usually we say 1 sai. 1歳. There are little tsu between. 1歳. The same reason, 8歳, 1歳, 8歳. 8 years old would be 8歳. I think we believe it's easier to say 8歳 than 8歳, 1歳 than 1歳. So that's why probably. And 10 years old, I can say this. 10 years old, that's 10歳 instead of 10歳, 10歳. Well, 10 in Japanese, that's 10. But 10 years old, 10歳, 10歳. This will apply when it comes to 28 years old or 21 years old or 40 years old. So when you have a look, 0歳, 1 year old, 1歳, 2 years old, 2歳, 3 years old, 3歳, 4 years old, 4歳, 5 years old, 5歳, 6, 6歳, 7, 7歳, 8, 8歳, 9, 9歳, 10, 10歳. So remember this system. How about 11 or 20 or 21, 30, 41? 20 is the most irregular one. But 11, that would be 10 plus 1 year old. So 11歳. 11歳. 1歳. What is it called? Regulation 1歳 system will apply to 11. So 11歳. 20. You can systematically say 20歳, which is literally 20 years old. But since 20 years old is very, very important in Japan, as in most European countries, it's 18. When you get the legally adult, you can do many things when you turn 18. But that age is 20 in Japan. You can legally drink, you can legally smoke, you can legally have the right, the right to vote, I think that's now 18. But this is special age, so it has special name, 20歳. So without sai, 20歳 means 20 years old. So when you're 20, you can say 20歳です. You don't say 20歳です, so 20歳. Right, and then 21 years old, 21歳. 1歳 instead of 21歳, we say 21歳. And then 30. As in 10 years old, it's 10歳. So plus 3. So 3, 10 years old. So 30歳, that would be 30 years old. 41 years old, 41歳. 41歳. And so on. Blah, 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 blah. And so on. And so on, so on. Right. The last one. How do we ask people these, like how many people in family, or how old are you? How old is your father? How old is your friend and stuff? How do we say this in Japanese? Well, we have a look at the normal statement, the normal sentence. 家族は4人です. There are 4 people in my family. Or literally, my family is 4 people. 家族は4人です. How do we make a sentence? How do we make a question sentence? Do you remember? Do we replace something? No. Word order is the same, but we don't know this 4 part. So we want to ask how many people, like this number, it's a question. So instead of 4, we put none, which means what in the question sentence. And then the rest is the same, plus you put ka at the end. And that's it. So 家族は何人ですか? That would be how many are there in your family. Isn't easy? I hope it is. So 家族は4人です. That's the normal status that you say that there are 4 people in your family. But when you want to make a question form, you replace 4 part. That's the question. So you put 何 and か as a question. 家族は何人ですか? That's it. How old? For example, my father is 55歳, 55 years old. That's a normal sentence. So again, the 55 part, that's the question. So you replace this part with 何. And when you talk about age, we use 歳. So 何歳 plus か at the end. 何歳ですか blah blah は何歳ですか How old is 何歳ですか Well, we talk about the different way of saying when you talk about yourself or your family and talking about the others. So, again, there's some variations in Japanese. How old are you? How old are you? So you don't have to worry about subject, so it's dropped. 何歳ですか as in we just, looked at this here. 何歳ですか You could ask it. 何歳ですか But there's another way of saying, which is more polite. How old are you? おいくつですか You could also say this. I mean, I would recommend this one. 何歳ですか is a bit direct way. It's slightly childish. So I would recommend おいくつですか when you're grown up. おいくつですか But the meaning is the same. Totally the same. Just a nuance. How old are you? 何歳ですか Or おいくつですか How do we say how old is your father? You just add お父さんは in front of these sentences. And the rest is the same. お父さんは何歳ですか How old is your father? お父さんはおいくつですか How old is your father? Again, the same. Right, as a subject, when you want to talk about the father, you start with the father. And then, おいくつですか何歳ですか will follow. And when you respond, that's what we have learned last time. So you could say お父さん but I think you would sound sophisticated. You can say 父は55歳です when you switch the father term to 父. My father is 55 years old in Japanese. 父は55歳です。お父さんはおいくつですか父は55歳です。And then you sound super fluent. For beginner, I would say. So I hope you can get rid of, no, not to get rid of, you can get a grip of it. Sorry, and that's it for today. Thank you for watching. お疲れ様でした。If you want to practice Japanese with us and meet your new classmates, you're more than welcome to join us. おかえりスクール